Today on the channel, stand back. There's a Hurricane Top 5 coming through, as today on the channel we're doing the Top 5 Hurricane figures of all time.
The spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 5, a weekly tradition here on the channel where every Thursday we're counting down my top 5 or top 10 favorites of something. And today, Hurricane Helms drew the short straw, and we are doing my top 5 Hurricane figures of all time. Of course, we're looking at Jakks, we're looking at Mattel primarily, and he's had a lot more figures than you assumed, especially going back to the Jakks days, than we would have imagined. And of course, the Hurricane came back recently in a Legends line, Target exclusive, as we all do know, and we had a few other Mattels, but like I said, Jakks really predominantly made the most Hurricane figures, and the Hurricane was an interesting one. Talk about a cool gimmick, a superhero gimmick, and one that was really captivating to me in my younger years, I guess we'll call it, as I really did enjoy, of course, superheroes, but I enjoyed what Shane Helms did with the character. I didn't have a problem with Shane Helms when he was part of 3 Count, things like that, but he needed a little bit something more. As WCW folded its tent, he went over to WWF, WWE, of course, and he rose to a prominence with the Hurricane gimmick, a very cool superhero gimmick. I always loved that he would try to do a choke slam on like a giant and things like that. Just very cool, tongue-in-cheek, with a lot of good, iconic moments over the years. A lot of fun promos, a lot of fun backstage segments, of course. Molly Holly, Mighty Molly by his side, which we recently got, of course, in the Legends line as well. Always loved some of that, even his interplay with The Rock, some of the other announcers. Just an all-around cool entertainer. We knew Hurricane probably wasn't going to be world champion, but definitely was entertaining every Monday night on Raw. There is no doubt about that. So very cool, iconic character from the Ruthless Aggression era, I guess we'll call it, and one that definitely deserves a top 5. It'll be really interesting if we ever get any more Hurricane figures. I don't really know what else they could do at this point. Maybe an Ultimate Edition one day. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But it'll be interesting to see where the Hurricane's action figure career goes, as I believe right now, currently, as a character, he is behind the scenes as an agent for the WWE, so you never know, he might show his face once again in some backstage segment or something in the future. But without further ado, let's get to it. Let's get to the top 5, and as always, remember, this is my list. Put your top 5 list in order. That's the hard part. That is the fun part. Put that down in the comments below. But let's kick it off at number 5, my 5th favorite Hurricane figure of all time. All right, we kick off the Hurricane Helms top 5, and number 5, we go back to the Jakks days. Oh, Jakks, gotta love them. Jakks Ruthless Aggression era, and more importantly, or more likely, we're going to Jakks Adrenaline Series 6 from the 2-pack, of course, with that superhero in training, Rosie. We go to that version of the Hurricane. A very cool one, another iconic one from back in the day. Always love these Hurricane figures, especially in the Jakks era, but as we know with Jakks, we saw this release. So some of you guys and gals out there maybe got this figure in the UK exclusive 2-pack with Rosie, a different version of Rosie, but it was, I think, one of the WrestleMania set UK 2-packs. As we do know with Jakks, they put a lot of stuff in single card releases, 2-pack releases, treacherous trios, you name it, one-offs. Get the most out of your molds to a record level that we've never seen since is really what Jakks used to do. But a very cool version. Now, one thing, spoiler alert, you're not going to see any Titantron figures in this list. I am just not a Titantron guy, as you guys and gals once again do know. But we did get some cool stuff occasionally from the Titantron line. That Raven figure, probably the best Titantron figure of all time. But we did get a cape on one of the Hurricane Helms back in the day, and I did grab this in a loose slot at a toy store one time, and I did pair it with this one to classy this one up a little bit. So this one always took it to the proverbial next level in my case here. But very cool Hurricane. Coming in at number 5, we're going to call this Adrenaline Series 6. Next up, of course, number 4 in our Hurricane Helms top 5 countdown. Number 4, once again, we go back to Jakks. This time we go to Ruthless Aggression Series 4, or once again we go to one of those WrestleMania packs. This one was a figure and a Hurricane mask 2-pack. Same figure in both of those. But we're going once again, of course, to the Hurricane, an interesting version of the Hurricane. A little darker version of the Hurricane, where you still got the green and black attack like a young Overkill. Oh, shout out to Overkill. But you do got the mask going on, you got the green hair, but you do got the big Hurricane logo on the chest. Now, we do remember this more recently from the Mattel Elite line, where we did get a very similar figure to this with that graphic on the chest, and that was the Chase edition from Mattel. But this was the one that did it first. That did this era first, or this outfit first, whatever you want to call it. And I always did like this one. It felt similar, but felt different at the same time. And it was definitely a little bit more in your face. And it was kind of a darker turn for the Hurricane, where we got a little darker as time went on, just like the last Legends Mattel figure from the Hurricane. But this one is still pretty good. Of course, it is your typical Jakks Ruthless Aggression figure. And one thing we did see with the Jakks Ruthless Aggression line was we did get the same head on all these Shane Helms figures. So, gotta get the most out of your molds. I get it. I understand it. But definitely cool. And you gotta put yourself in the time and the place collecting these. As of course, these were like equivalent to the Mattel of the day. So everybody's like, oh, this new Mattel figure is amazing. That's how we were with these. I mean, go back to the old days when I was a little kid playing Nintendo. You're like, these graphics are amazing. You wouldn't believe how good these graphics are. This Paperboy game, it's a game changer. Graphics will never get better than that. Kind of a lot like our action figures. At the time when this came out, you're like, holy cow, they're changing the game. Absolutely amazing. Well, now you look at it with 2023 eyes, maybe not quite as the equivalent of Mattel. I think that is a fair assessment. But for the time, and for now, a very cool one. Hurricane Helms coming in at number 4. We've hit the halfway point on our top 5 Hurricane countdown. You got your list together. Make sure you put it in the comments down below, and make sure you do put it in order. That is the fun part. That is the hard part. But coming in at number 3, once again, we're seeing a theme here. We're going to Jakks. We're going to the Ruthless Aggression era, but we're going to WrestleMania 21 with the Signature Gear Series 3 version of Hurricane, where it did, once again, was a little 2-pack action. It came with a mask, a little cosplay mask, and the figure. Now, this figure is very interesting because you guys know I'm a sucker for a cape. I love a good cape, and this did come with a cape. Got the nice Hurricane at the top right there. Very flimsy cape, not the best cape we've ever seen, but it is a cape nonetheless, like a young Lando Calrissian. Of course, get the same Hurricane Helms head that we've seen in the past, but we get a little bit different tight design with the green and black still being there, but more of a seafoam green, maybe we'll call it on this one. But definitely striking, definitely cool, and definitely cool if you're a Been On Card fan, getting the 2-pack with the mask. You can play with the mask on, you can play with the figure. Very cool scene. We do see Mattel do that from time to time, but not as often as Jakks would back in the day. But a very, very cool looking figure. The cape putting it over the top. So much so, in fact, it comes in at number 3 in my top 5 list. We've arrived at the number 2 spot in our top 5 countdown. We're starting to separate the men from the boys, as one may say. But this time, we're going to Mattel for the first time. We're going all the way to Elite Series 75 for the Mattel Hurricane figure. Of course, you know I'm a sucker. Cape season, running hard, running fast, running free, like a young Lando Calrissian, looking good with the big H there. Beautiful cape. Now, Elite 75 did have 2 versions of this figure. One very similar to the one we saw in the Jakks Ruthless Aggression earlier in this countdown, but this is the regular edition, the non-chase edition. Great head sculpt for the Hurricane, and up to this point, the only Hurricane figure we had was an old basic from back in the day. So we were due for an Elite-style Hurricane, and now including the Chase, we are up to 3 of those from Mattel. And like I said earlier, I'm not sure if there's any more they could do. Maybe an Ultimate Edition one day, maybe in a Ruthless Aggression Ultimate line down the road. We'll see what happens, but definitely a good one. Extra hands, got the soft goods. Just a beautiful looking version of the Hurricane, especially for the more modern times compared to Jakks. I think that's a fair assessment. But looking good, the bright green colors, all the bells and whistles of the articulation of the modern days as well. Just a very, very good representation of the Hurricane, and I do prefer this one over the Chase one. So there it is, Elite 75 Hurricane coming in at number 2 on my top 5 list. Now we're at the number 1 spot. Do you got your list together? Make sure you put it in the comments and let's check it out. Let's see what is number 1. All right, we've landed at the number 1 Hurricane Helms figure of all time. Do you got your list together? Make sure you put it in the comments down below. Make sure you put it in order, as I always do say. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this very YouTube channel, as every single Thursday we're doing a top 5 and occasionally a top 10 countdown. You don't want to miss the next one, that is for sure. But let's get down to number 1. And number 1, no stranger to this list, no stranger to probably everybody's list, honestly. This one comes from the Elite line. This one goes to Target, goes to Legends, Series 13, Hurricane. Probably the greatest Hurricane figure we'll probably ever have, unless they do give us an Ultimate Edition, in my estimation at least. Now, We do get a soft goods cape. Always love a good cape. You guys know that. You do get a beautiful tag team title belt, and the tag team title belt we don't see very often, of course. But we get the more darking... But we get the more dark, brooding version of the Hurricane right here. The gold and the black... The green and the black really do pop on this one really good. I love the darker mask. This is basically an update of the old Mattel Basic Hurricane we got in Elite form. And it is a very, very cool time in the Hurricane's career where some of the comedy elements were still there a little bit, but he was getting a little bit more away from that, a little bit more darker, a little bit more brooding. Just a very cool figure. Maybe it's recency bias as well, as this was the last Hurricane figure that was released, but it is still a very good figure, and I think most modern day collectors, current collectors, probably own this one in their collection. Even some Targets did have this down to clearance prices, which made even people that were on the fence maybe jump in on this one. And wouldn't be shocked for modern day collectors if this isn't the one most people do own at this point. It's been a while since that Elite 75, as we all know. If we can count, we're up to like 102 right now in the Elite line as I'm filming this. But a very good one, very good accessories, a very fun exclusive, one that didn't feel legend-like at the time, but really is when you sit and think about it. That era is part of the WWE legacy, part of the Legend line. So that's where we got the Hurricane there. But a very, very cool one. I'm sure this is going to be on a lot of your guys and gals list when you do put them in the comments down below. But don't forget to put these in the comments down below. And I'm very, very interested to see what everybody's number one figure is. I mean, the Hurricane probably has 10, 11 figures in total, depending what you classify as a figure, maybe even more than that. But for me, these were the top 5 that I came up with. But I can't wait to hear what you have in your list. So make sure you put it down below. Make sure you like this video. We got them every Thursday, as I always say. Make sure you subscribe to this very YouTube channel. Don't forget about the Patreon for early access to videos like this, bonus content, exclusive content, giveaways, Q&As, you name it. A lot going on here on the channel every single day, and a ton more to come in the future, as you can imagine. And don't forget about ProWrestlingTees.com, search Kyle Peterson, and don't forget about my social media, SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson. So for the Hurricane, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.